service. Okay. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to November's meeting. I am your host, as usual, Keith Gallinelli. It's been a long time since I've seen everybody. Nothing has happened in the last month, which is always nice to have happen. But the first thing we have to do is call this meeting to order. I do believe we have a quorum, so that is good. So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and the first thing we have to do is to approve the minutes from Thursday, October 15th, 2020 regular meeting. And so I know, Jay, there was a few comments for you, and you made some edits, I believe.
Let me unmute. Very, very few. Just one. I left off one line about who was actually attending the meeting. That was my mistake. But that's now part of the document. Yep.
Excellent. And are you able to, when the meetings are done, are you able to get those meetings to the town clerk to get them up on the website?
I checked last one, and they're up there. Yep.
Okay, great. And it has the recording, the link to the recording as well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, great. All right, so can I get a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting? If you have any comments, please make them now.
This is Mike. Motion to approve.
All right, seconded? Oh, well, we'll go
I'll
with
second it.
All right, great. So all in favor? Looks like we're going to have unanimous. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to just jump right in with my updates. And we have some guests tonight. Hopefully, they'll all be able to join us in a few minutes. I do see Kristen is here. But first thing I do want to say is congratulations to Anne and Linda. There was a little bit of worry that their terms would not be able to be renewed, but in working with the first Selectwoman's office, we were able to find out they can be reapproved. And so they have both been reapproved, and they're joining us, I think, for another 4 years, right? 4 more years. All right, so
there you go.
Thank you very much. And let me just check my email, make sure nobody else is trying to get the call in or whatever. But the other nice thing to know is that we do have a new member that will be joining the committee. I actually did talk to 2 people, and I passed them on to the first Selectwoman's office, and Sarah Roy was selected and agreed, and I believe she was approved by the Board of Selectmen on Monday. And I think she was going to be here tonight, but she's not an official voting member until our next meeting. I think it's November 23rd. Now, Kristen, were you going to swear her in if she jumps on later? Can you do that on the call? Can you talk to Kristen? Job. No?
I was speaking with her earlier.
Okay. I see her talking, but I'm not sure. I think I might just text her the number to call in directly. I'm not sure if they're different numbers or not.
You know what? Keith, I'm sorry, I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now. Okay.
My apologies, I had muted myself. That's the line of 2020. It's
Yes.
not, can you hear me now? It's already, you're muted. But Sarah is on the call in listen-only mode, so okay. I don't think that I'm going to be able to do that. We are going to make arrangements to meet this weekend so that I can swear her in.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that.
It's
Sarah,
my pleasure and honor.
Can you hear me? I haven't tried to talk.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I can talk. I wasn't sure if the audio worked or not. So I'm here.
Well, welcome. So I hope everybody can say welcome to Sarah. We're really happy
welcome.
To have you. It's nice to have a full contingent of 9 people again.
I can't wait to meet you all in person someday.
Thank you. We too. And also, the next thing actually is kind of along the same lines is that we do have to vote for the calendar for 2021 because I have to get it to the town clerk. So again, we've been doing this every year, the third Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. I'm again requesting the second floor conference room if we're ever able to meet in person again. So I did put them in the minutes, hopefully, or excuse me, the agenda items. Hopefully I got all the dates right, but that would be the calendar for next year. We do have to vote on it, and once we vote on it, I can send it over to the town clerk. So can I have a motion to either approve or disapprove of the dates for 2021?
Yep. This is Mike. Motion to approve by voice vote.
All right, and seconded?
Seconded.
Okay. All right, so we'll do it with Nate. All in favor, you just raise your hands or say aye, or looks
aye.
like it's unanimous. Wonderful. All right. I don't know. Are Bob Wall and Mary Hogue, are you here yet?
Yeah.
Oh, you are? Wonderful. Okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we start with the Sustainable Fairfield Task Force? One of the things we wanted to do as we move into the new year is we wanted to start doing some more outreach or outreaching again to various members of our community, kind of find out what they're up to and, you know, share what we're up to. And I had spoken with both of you earlier in the week, and so I'll turn it over to you guys. And if you want to give us a quick update, that would be great. Actually, before you do that, maybe I'll just jump on. I know Bill, Hurley, and Santina both have other meetings. If it's okay with everybody, maybe we'll just go to them quickly because I know they have to jump off, and I wanted to get get some items from them. So is that okay with you guys?
Fine by me.
That's fine.
Okay, great. So Bill, are you here?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. I have a confession, though. I am driving, but I'm only about 5 minutes from home. So if Santina wants to go first, I'm still okay with that.
Okay, why don't we do that? I don't want you to drive into anything.
Good call.
Like a pedestrian committee. We're all about safety.
Yeah.
So we'll have Santina jump on. And I know you're having, again, nothing is going on in the town, I've heard, on the health front, so I'm sure you're not very busy. Santina, you're up.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you, sorry, my husband is upstairs and I have my 1-year-old who is currently going through my cabinets.
Okay.
So I apologize. I don't really have too much to report. The report for the Preventative Health Block Grant was due to the state on the 15th. But with everything going on, I actually didn't get a chance to submit it until today. I can send Jay over the exact, but for the Wilson Street project, I think we were over budget by like $21 or something. But overall in the grant, we, one of the other line items, we were under budget, so we were able to compensate that way. So that ended up working out. And I think that's really it, you know, just trying to decide what we want to do for year 2. It's going to be probably about the same amount of money, like $9,500-ish, I think is what it usually is. So whatever other pedestrian improvements the committee has ideas for, we're open to, because we don't have a set plan.
Okay, great. That's good to know. And hopefully we can model something like we did on Wilson Street, as long as we have buy-in from a local residents and they kind of come to us with it, and we'll try to get some outreach along with that. So that's great.
Santina, what would be the parameters to qualify for the grant?
So, you know, I kept it really general. I kept it pedestrian and bike safety. So it isn't too much, too specific. You know, I think from the health department, you know, I think I've explained this before, you know, we've done so much with biking. We want to move to the pedestrian safety and those kind of improvements. So I would like to, for the next, you know, 2 years of this 3-year cycle, like continue with the pedestrian safety and improvements. But other than that, there's no other specific criteria. So if anyone has any ideas, we're open to it. And I think that's it from me.
Okay, great. Well, we'll definitely maybe circle back around with that as we move to the next meeting. And again, I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. I don't know if, Kristen, if you have a relatively limited time or not, but I'll kind of maybe leave it up to you and Mary and Bob. Who would like to go first while we wait for Bill to come back?
Oh, I'm back here, if that's real. Okay, I'll be quick.
Oh, okay. All right.
I just want to update.
You really did get home quickly.
I'll update people on CROG, Central Connecticut's governments. They had some extra money and for possible bike rack locations. And so I checked with DPW. I checked with some members here, the Bike and Ped Committee, and with the schools, Board of Education. And we came up with 7 locations for Fairfield. Two of them somewhere along Black Rock Turnpike. You had to be somewhat. I picked intersections. That way, if the state gives us a problem with permits, we can always go on the side street. And then I said in between, it was Fairfield Woods and Stilson, and in between Stilson and Katona. So that way, if we were able to get either private buy-in or some, we find a spot. I had one or two at least potential spots we can put in. Now the bike racks are going to be small. They cost about $200 or $300. They hold 2 bikes at a time, but nevertheless, it's still something that I know some members here at the Bike and Ped Committee stressed that we should try to get some racks at Black Rock Turnpike. I also picked Owen Fish Park for one, and then 4 schools. It was Stratfield, North Stratfield, and Jennings, and I think there was one other one that's escaping me now. So that's with that grant there. The Stratfield Four Corners. We've reviewed all the comments and we're processing them. Some we will be able to address. Some we might not be, or we're still investigating. Obviously, there's a big tie-in with the DOT for that. As I said, Route 59 is their road, and their where Pollock, former member here of the Bike and Ped Committee. I know many of you know him. He has helped, and he submitted a plan, which I forwarded to BL's companies, and we're reviewing that. And if the survey and everything lines up with what he had, we will talk to the state and see if it has some merits or possibilities. The one big factor for that, though, is in our original scope, we were concentrating on Stratfield Road. And at the last minute, just in case we were a little under the grant, I said, why don't we do a little bit going east and west of Fairfield Woods Road? And we added a section. So we hadn't really looked at that. It looks like a good plan. It's definitely worth keeping. If for some reason the DOT doesn't approve for this, perhaps Pete Bank or the town, whenever we're doing something in that area, we can incorporate that, or we can always apply for another mini grant or something like that for that area as well. Or, and maybe just, you don't have to answer me tonight, but if anyone has an opinion of that this area was really important and maybe we don't do the section by Montauk Street or the section by Owen Fish, something like that. We can look in that and maybe reducing the scope in order to try to get the affordable. Right now, we are over the grant amount. And then there was one other thing I'm trying to remember. I know we've met
Steep
with
grant.
The steep grant. Thank you, Keith. The steep grant. The town was awarded the steep grant. Tomorrow, I will send in the required paperwork and confirmation for that grant. And we'll probably have to have a kickoff meeting with DOT, who's the administration agency on that. And we'll go from there. So that's the recap of engineering. And certainly if you have any questions, in the interest of time, you can always email or give me a call tomorrow. Unless there's something urgent now.
Thank you, Bill. I just wanted to make one comment. I did happen to notice a lot of the roads down by our beach route, the shoreline route, have been repaved. And I was just wondering, are they going to be putting the lines back this winter, or do they wait till the spring to do that?
They were scheduled to put the lines in this fall, but there've been some pavement problems and some settling on some of the. And so I know, for instance, Fairfield Beach Road, I believe, is not scheduled for painting. But I do know that we marked out Beach Road around that island, and we kept it. I think we have it at 11 feet and 6.5 to 7 feet for the shoulder. One of the fears I had is there was actually a mark out in one area of 8 feet. And when you do it that much, it really encourages parking. So we tried to keep it at a balance of where 6.5 or 7 would be a little bit wider than a typical bike lane even, but the same token, try to discourage a little bit of parking if they didn't need to have it.
Good. Thank you very much, Bill. Does anybody have any comments? We have those bike racks in about 7 locations. The steep grant, I was just wondering if you could give me a little bit more information about that. Do you know how much money that is and what does it actually include?
Yeah, it's the grant itself. They wanted to award it to as many towns as possible. So it was capped at $128,000, $128,205. And the town is committed to do, I think, like a $26,000 or $24,000 share. Will involve the area around the library for the most part. So wherever there was that brick streetscape that's either very old, crumbly, or outdated, we could replace sections of that. And the sidewalk, the concrete sidewalks, we would replace some. We might be able to do some driveway aprons. And then based on another a comment and from a couple of other people, but mainly Alyssa Israel, about the condition of the old post sidewalk. We did get that in there, and we can certainly at least repair the worst sections and maybe do a good majority of that on that would be the east side of Old Post Road.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
That's from
Kristen had a question.
the YMCA to the library.
Okay, thank you. There was a question from Chris. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it says how much of the Four Corners projected cost over the current amount available?
Well, right now it's a preliminary, and I think they were using like a 30% contingency factor, so that is a little high. But we're hundreds of thousands over. So unfortunately, right now, when we find the design and they go into what they call semi-final, we'll have then they only use like a 20% contingency, and only use the final, they'll have a 10% contingency. What we also do is for the bid document, we will have a section where we call add alternate. And so therefore, if the bids happen to be low, competitive, sometimes you get lucky, then we can add that extra group in or those other things. But meanwhile, if the bids come in too high, we don't have to take out. We've already tried to establish what we call a base bid and then add on if we can.
Laurie, I think you just muted yourself again.
We have on the agenda for a little later to have this committee review in detail these plans and make any recommended changes. I don't know how long Bill can stay on the line with us.
Yeah, I could only stay on about 20 minutes. I have a really big meeting. I'm expecting 70, people, maybe even 100 people, the Rooster River.
Including me.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
But we can always arrange a conference call if that's okay with the committee,
I think that would be best. I just wanted to be respectful of everybody's time right now. And I'm going to go through some of the things on the first part of the agenda first, and then we'll come back to that.
Can I ask Karen, when do we have to kind of formalize, or Karen and Bill, when do we have to formalize our response to the team?
Well, Dylan asked me at the end of last week if we had come together with recommendations. I said we did have something, but we wanted to present it to the committee to make sure that the committee backed what we were presenting. I mean, my guess is none of you guys are going to have any real problems with what we have to say. It's more of an explanation of maybe why we're putting those forward. And, Bill Hurley's already seen them, and he's had some communication with the company about it. So it's kind of a formality of just making sure that everyone on the committee has looked at what we made the recommendations, and if they approve of them, then I'd send them to Dylan.
And the expectation is they aren't going to actually do everything we recommend.
Absolutely. It was just what we're recommending as a bicycle pedestrian committee, it goes to complete streets as well, is that we're making sure that this new project is safe for both bicyclists and pedestrians. And if we think that they, in some places that they aren't making a wide enough margin for the, bicyclists or something on certain corners, that should be taken into consideration.
And I think part of the issue is, how strongly we are going to object to the plans if they aren't going to be safe for cyclists. Because there's one place where suddenly the shoulder disappears and the cyclist has to move over into the lane for cars.
Yeah.
That's one place that really upsets me. I think it's dangerous to suddenly have the shoulder disappear and the cyclist is possibly colliding with vehicles in the same lane. So I think we have to voice our approval or disapproval or make strong statements here. That's just one example.
Okay, I think, yeah, we'll bring that up as we get to that point in the agenda. We'll go
Yeah, I'm leaving for the same. I'm leaving for the same meeting that Bill's going to, so I will be getting off.
Okay.
Karen and I and Bill Pollock met with the team along with Bill Early and are familiar with this plan. So.
Okay. Great. All right. Thanks, Laura. I'm just going to put everybody back on mute again. All right. So let's jump back over to Bob and Mary if you're still around. If you want to just give us a brief overview of the Sustainable Task Force, if you wouldn't mind.
Bob, do you want to start?
Kristen want to jump? Did Kristen want to jump in first?
Oh, okay.
She's saying no, so.
Okay. All right.
It'd be nice for her to hear what's going on with your group as well. So go ahead, Bob.
Yeah. So I'm Bob Wall, and I'm here with Mary Hogue on behalf of Sustainable Fairfield Task Force. And as you know, Mary, she has many hats, so she'll also be appearing on behalf of the Forestry Committee. But we thank you for this kind invitation, and we'll be real brief. In terms of outreach, at this time we have our two traditional events planned for 2021. They are Earth Day, which in the past we've done in conjunction with the YMCA, and Green Wheels Expo. Last year, unfortunately, both of them had to be virtual, but and we hope that you will continue to be involved with those events. And there may be some other events in the works, but those are the two main ones. And to kind of support our outreach efforts, as our task force has grown, we've really strengthened our communications team. We have a series of excellent writers, somebody who's done a great job with social media, and we now have somebody with good web expertise. And I don't know how we did this, but we managed to come up with a dedicated website along with the town official website. So collectively, this provides a lot of opportunities to promote our collective good works through various channels. And I know you have some of your own writers in social media, but we can amplify whatever you're doing. And we can put a lot of resources on this website, which was created mainly to promote the Green Wheels Expo. So there's a lot of transportation information on there. And even if you have it on the town website, it might be good to have it in a second place. And it looks a lot more colorful, in my opinion, than the town site. Secondly,
wait, time. Well, no. So originally it was the Earth Day website, and then we morphed it into this. So it has Earth Day, Green Wheels Expo, and the sustainability plan. So. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. I also wanted to mention that Fairfield was a founding member of Sustainable Fairfield County, and one of the principal reasons that group came together is the recognition that we were all kind of working along the same lines and doing a lot of great events. So this gave us an opportunity to help cross-promote events. So to the extent your committee has its own standalone events, we would be happy to cross-promote them to all the towns throughout the county to let them know what's happening in Fairfield, which undoubtedly they would be interested in. On a separate note, you may recall that we came before your committee a while back to talk about the Sustainable CT program, and Fairfield in 2018 was recognized by that program as we got silver status, and at the time we had the highest point total of any town in the state. Well, the certification, it was good for 3 years, so next year we will be gearing up to recertify, and they are currently discussing the addition of a number of new actions, which Mary and I have been looking at the draft versions, but there appear to be several that would be tailor-made for your committee, and you may recall that we got a lot of points last time around for the Complete Streets policy that you guys developed, and there are some additional elements of Complete Streets, along with some just kind of basic bicycle pedestrian planning type things, including the introduction of sharrows on the roadways, which Fairfield now has. So there's a lot of opportunities to get credit for actions that have either been completed or are in the works, or at least in your radar. So we look forward to working together on that. And lastly, Sustainable CT has developed a grant program which requires applicants to come up with half of the money using, I believe it's 20 donors. So it can't just be like a town allocation. You need to have a number of donors, and then you can receive a matching amount from the foundation, which is partnered with Sustainable CT. So if you're looking for opportunities that may not cost an arm and a leg, but in this era of tight budgets, money's hard to come by, this might be an opportunity for you. We wanted to make you aware of that. So I'll turn it over to Mary if she wants to talk about anything I've forgotten or the sustainability plan, and then she can update you on forestry committee matters.
Thanks, Bob. Just before you turn it over to Mary, I just wanted to ask, you're the new chair of the Sustainable Fairfield Committee?
It's looking that way. We won't have our vote until the December meeting, but currently I've nominated, and I'm the only nominee. And Mary has been nominated as secretary. So basically, we're a two-headed monster. And
that's because Scott is stepping down because his term limits have expired, correct?
Yeah, and he'll be remaining on the committee as well. So.
Okay. Just want to check. All right, Mary, go ahead.
So that's Madam Secretary to you. Anyway.
I've been watching that with my family for the last few weeks. So.
Yeah, I love that show. That was what I was just going to lead with, was that you're speaking to our soon-to-be future chair. So that's why he's here. I just wanted to, one thing I wanted to bring up was, and it leads into talking about the forestry committee, is that one of the things is the sustainability plan. I just want to back up to that because I wanted to point out that Bill Pollack had helped with our wetlands and marshes module. So we did collaborate with him while he was on your committee. So I wanted to point that out. And also that we're going to be working on updating our clean energy action plan, and we're looking to possibly turn it into a climate change plan with a potential air quality component, which seems like a really great overlap with you guys. So I'm working with the health department on that. So that's an area where we could coordinate. And so just sort of segueing into plans, as you and I, as we had discussed, Keith, on the forestry committee, we have a community forest management plan. And as you all know, with Complete Streets, roadside trees is very big in Complete Streets, and the roadside trees are under the purview of the tree warden. And that's one of our main topics in our forestry meetings. And we have, I forget, I think we have 270 road miles in Fairfield. So we talk about roadside trees all the time. Jeff Minder is our tree warden. He's in charge of those trees as well as all the trees in the parks and open space. And we have a tree planting program that we've had to postpone for the full year this year. And so we currently have 181 trees on order for spring of 2021 before we even open up that spring order session. So hopefully we'll be able to be planting trees in the spring of 2021, and the staff will be able to handle all the trees that with that pent up need to plant. Thankfully, when we get the storms, people are actually ordering trees in the storm. It's the funniest thing because you can order online now through the website, and people will see their trees falling over and they'll order a tree. It's lovely. It used to be that people would get so angry and say, cut down all the trees because my power's out. So I'm heartened to see that people are actually ordering trees while this is happening. The other thing I just wanted to bring up about trees is I don't know, I think you probably are aware of, there's a mandated utility tree trimming program. And thankfully, we do have Jeff Minder as our tree warden, and we're keeping an eye on it. But it does mean that trees do get trimmed and removed because of it. And so we are keeping an eye on that. And again, that plays to the complete streets, roadside trees, because the trees are a calming influence on the traffic. So working with you, we do want to make sure that trees are planted, and we're trying to make sure where trees are lacking in canopy in the area. So if you want to let us know if you find areas in town that are lacking trees, we can work together. And I also wanted to thank your committee, especially Laura, walked with us when we were doing our signage in the downtown area. She helped us with placements to figure out the best places to locate those signs. And I think I'm hoping we can have that walking tour of those signs at some point with you guys, because that was really a great idea. So I look forward to continuing working with you all. And so I'm coordinating up all our plans, like POCD in particular, strategic plans, and yes, and if you want to take a look at the sustainability plan, of course, that'd be great.
Thank you. I'm not sure did I yell into the phone about moving the dog? I'm sorry. There's like 3 different mute buttons. I have it on my screen and on my phone. So I apologize for my outburst. I thought I was muted. This is running this meeting is extremely complicated with the call-ins and stuff like that, and I'm not very bright. So thank you very much, Bob and Mary. One of the things that I was hoping to talk about towards the end of the meeting, and maybe something for all of our members to think about, is it would be great to have at least 1 or 2 people who would be willing to be our key liaison with the sustainability and with the forestry committee, because we want to make sure that we keep up these conversations, and if there are opportunities to do things that would match our clean streets policy or any of the other things that we have going on, it would be great. So just something for everybody to think about as we move towards the end of the meeting or even over the next month. But I just wanted to ask one quick question about the trees. Like when you say you're ordering trees, are these oak, cedars, things to replace the big trees, or are they, cherry trees or fruit trees, or what kind of?
Well, we have two sets of trees, and if you look on the website, if you go on the website and look up tree planting, you'll see there's utility side trees that are the more the lower trees, so they won't go into the wires, and then the taller trees. So we only allow the tall, like the oaks and the maples and the ones that are the shade trees. We will never plant a smaller tree on that side of the road. And if it's in an open space area, we would only plant a shade tree. So
Okay, thanks.
the flowering, all trees have flowers, so they're ornamental trees, I guess we're calling them.
Okay.
But only under the wires. And I also wanted to mention, I don't know if it matters for your committee or not, but the Forestry Committee is lead organization in the town for the pollinator pathway, if that affects anything that you do.
Great, thanks. Any questions for the two committees? All right, great. So thank you guys very much. Let's move on to Kristen, and thank you very much for joining our meeting.
Keith, did I unmute myself properly?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I just have to say, I love being back with the Bike Ped Committee. It's so wonderful to be here with all of you. And I also love that I get to be right after Santina, Bill, Bob, and Mary, some of my favorite people who are doing such incredible work. And it really is all connected. I'll let you know, too, Santina, I have some suggestions for that grant. I'm sure you're shocked. But I was going to suggest that Burroughs Road, actually, and some pedestrian crosswalk work on both ends of that road were one of the things, a constituent request that I got. And to that end, when you all are thinking about that grant, it might make sense to reach out to RTM reps and to all the folks who were out campaigning, because we do hear a lot of that when we're out on the out knocking on doors and making phone calls. So I am also just thrilled to follow both Bob and Mary, because what is happening at the local level certainly connects to what we are doing at the state level, whether it's, funding for the STEEP grant, thank you, Governor Lamont, or funding for the Four Corners, or some of our tree policies at the state level Mary has worked on. All of those things. I am in limbo, as all of us are. We are headed into a new session beginning in January. We have new leadership, so we're awaiting committee appointments. I currently am on transportation and serve as the co-chair of planning and development, but we're awaiting assignments. So don't know how that will shake out. But what I can tell you is that whatever committees we're on, we can still introduce legislation. And so, for example, and congratulations to Sarah, it's thrilling that she'll be a part of the group too. One of the issues that we've talked about and that we had legislation for was about allowing towns to set their own speed limits. We've had some pedestrian crosswalk bills that we've looked at. If there are specific issues that you all believe need to be addressed at the state level, please, now is a great time to let us know so that we can get those in. I can tell you, I was texting earlier the beginning of the meeting with one of our DOT leaders in the state who I said, is there anything you want me to tell them? And he did say just to note that there's a special focus on safety this year with their agenda, which is really exciting. I think especially when we think about vulnerable users, as people on bicycles and pedestrians are. I am very pleased to be working in conversation with some folks at DOT and of course Bill Hurley, who is just an amazing asset and advocate for all of us on that too. I will say, I know this isn't on the agenda, but Bill brought up the COG funding, and I know you guys have talked about, Black Rock Turnpike, and as all those things come down the pike, I hope to look to you all to continue to organize. And I think what Bob suggested in terms of amplifying message on the Sustainable Fairfield Task Force website is a great suggestion, because they certainly, you guys, Bob and Mary and your crew have done a really great job with kind of getting the word out in some new and creative ways. So I love the idea of you guys leveraging and I'll stop talking and I'm happy to take any questions. But like I said, if there's policy at the state level that you all think needs to change, I am more than happy to partner with you, because bike and pedestrian issues are huge. And I will say one other thing. Mary, to your point about the climate plan and the air quality component, and when we think about people ordering trees during storms, I had someone during this last storm say, I'm really concerned that we lose power during almost every storm. Well, I'm really concerned that we're having storms when winds are gusting up to 60 miles an hour. So one of the things we need to be looking at is climate change and what we can do. And we need to look at bold policy solutions like carbon pricing, for example. And what does that have to do with our Fairfield Bike and Pedestrian Committee? It's all connected. So I just throw that out there, and I'll truly be quiet now and happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that. Right, Laura.
I have a question. Can you refresh my memory on what the rule, the state laws are governing pedestrians in crosswalks? So they don't seem, I've seen other states where anytime a pedestrian is in a crosswalk, the cars must stop. But that doesn't appear to be the rule or the law in this state.
So cars are supposed to stop once a pedestrian has stepped into the crosswalk. We are trying to change it so that you don't have to actually be in the crosswalk. As you all know, it's education, engineering, enforcement. What else am I missing? But Bill, I know Bill's still here, and I'm going to the same Rooster River meeting. Woohoo! It's an exciting night. And actually, I'm really excited to be with Bill at that meeting. But Bill could, maybe speak to his experience of that too.
Yeah, real quick on the crosswalk there. Right now, the state law, the wording is that the vehicles are to yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk. So that's a big bone of contention. I know with some pedestrians, they want the word stop, but right now it's yield. And then the other is you mentioned something about on either side of Burroughs Road. We have finished up a plan for a crosswalk and 2 handicap ramps at Burroughs at Fairfield Woods.
Oh my gosh, Bill, thank you so much. I can take that back now to the constituent who asked about that. That's so exciting.
Hopefully we'll get it in for this fall. If not, it would be first thing in the spring, but I'm hoping they'll be able to do it.
Well, thank you so much.
To strengthen the crosswalk laws in this state would be welcome, because it's terrifying to try to cross the street, even in a crosswalk in this town. So
Laura, to that point, I agree with you, and I do think that we have a DOT that is much more interested in issues like this around, more complete look at what transportation is. But as you know, we can change the law, but we all are going to have to change our behaviors. And how do we make those cultural and behavioral shifts? Again, engineering and enforcement and education are a big part of that too. But I'm fully on board with making changes for those pedestrian laws, and we've been trying at least for a couple of years. So hopefully we can be successful in that.
Can I ask really quickly, from the state level, as it relates to bike and ped, are there any other things that you're seeing? Is there other towns are doing, or that state wants to try to implement? I'm just kind of curious what you're seeing on your side.
Well, I mean, in terms of other towns, I think one of the things that I've seen be done very successfully is the road diet. And I have to say, I mean, Bill has done yeoman's work in terms of just the Black Rock Turnpike piece. I think about, again, reconfiguring some roadways to make them more accessible to all users and to calm traffic. So I've seen I believe, in East Hartford, for example. And that's in partnership, town funding, sometimes it's COG, the Council of Government funding, and sometimes it's state funding. So I think that's one thing. I also think, you know, complete streets from the state standpoint there's been policy, but it hasn't been maybe as robustly embraced. And again, I think we've had a little bit of a shift, not a little bit, we've had a shift in leadership at the DOT level. And, you know, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're seeing a little bit more of a focus at that level too, on the broader spectrum of transportation.
That's correct.
Well, that's good. Anybody else from the other members here while we have Kristen or Mary or Bob? All right.
I'm going to leave this meeting to join my other one, so thank you.
Okay. Would you mind, what exactly is the Rooster River? I wasn't aware of that.
It's a detention pond study, feasibility. It's a little bit of past history, what our consultants are designing, and a look ahead of some of the things that we are going to propose for next year. Everyone's welcome.
Keith, do you know where the Rooster River is, Keith? It runs down that section of town.
Yeah.
I know it runs through my condo, for example.
It divides Bridgeport and Fairfield, right?
Yep.
No, that's sort of, mostly, not exactly, but yeah. And it caused major flooding in September a couple years ago. And so they're looking ways to mitigate it, and we'll see what happens.
Oh. Okay. Actually, I live over that way too, so that's good. All right, excellent. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you joining the meeting this week.
You can check the town website and do a link if you're interested, Keith. All right, I'm going to go.
Right,
see you.
Maybe
Bye.
I'll pop on. Thanks, Bill. I appreciate it. Well, unfortunately, he jumped off before we got to the Four Corners plan, which is what was next on the agenda. But Santina, thank you so much as well. I appreciate it. She's just dropping off as well. So
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so why don't we go ahead with the next, with the Four Corners plan. I think Karen and Laura had some comments they wanted to make, so I'll turn it over to you guys.
Laura, do you want to start? Because I know you have to leave.
Yeah, did everybody have a copy of what Karen sent out, an elaborate plan? And not sure the best place to start, but you all have to pull it up in front of you. Do that right now too. But they've got it's a nice plan in that it's of traffic calming measures, but they didn't really make great, hang on a second, I'm trying to find this. Karen sent.
Well, they basically, I can just speak to that. It didn't look like taking the what do you want to call it, the side area, like making sure it's wide enough at all the corners for a bicycle pedestrian. Like now, if you go down Stratfield Road, because it's such a wide street, where the striping is gives you about 3 feet, which is a nice area for a bicyclist or a pedestrian, even though it's not a bike route. But when you get into those corners, it gets really narrow. And that was basically the thing we were trying to address with our recommendations, and making sure that there's enough space and that they aren't sacrificing the space, in any of the corners.
So I don't know how familiar you all are with this area, but places where it looks like they're sacrificing. They're putting a median in the middle of Stratfield Road between the mobile station and the Goddard School. Now that's a lovely traffic calming measure, and it's going to have trees on it. But it reduces the shoulder size significantly on either side, and there are a lot of cyclists who use that. And I'm not sure the size of that median is warranted if instead we've got a safe place for bicyclists to travel.
Well, in addition, Laura, we also don't understand how you're going to put a median there and then be able to take a left-hand turn out of the mobile station, which is used quite frequently now, even though you are crossing the oncoming traffic. So I don't understand whether they're trying to prevent that, but that also changes a lot for that gas station.
That's right. That's another concern. Then when you go to the other side of the road, coming north in front of this little mall where Mayones is, they're wisely pulling out the shoulder, pulling out the, what am I trying to say? They're reducing the shoulder so that there's more room for the cars to back out without backing in. But they suddenly reduce the shoulder so much that if you're traveling northbound, it suddenly disappears. So if you're cycling northbound there, you will suddenly have to swerve into the lane. And of course, with cars having to keep 3 feet from you, I don't know. I think it could make for a very dangerous situation. That's my.
Well, it's dangerous right there anyhow, because the people who park in that lot, which is where the liquor store is, the Joseph's Bagel, Mayones, they back out.
Right.
So they're backing out, which means that their visibility of a bike or a pedestrian is pretty small.
That doesn't change with this plan, though.
No, but
so it does look like they're changing the parking to angle in versus straight in.
Yes.
Based on the overhead view.
Right.
But it's still backing out. So I just personally think it's a very dangerous situation. What I'd kind of like to see is maybe, and I don't know, we didn't bring this up before, Karen, but maybe a wider sidewalk in that area so a cyclist could use the sidewalk instead. I don't know. But it's a tough spot.
Yeah, I kind of thought about it, and now that this would happen, but there are areas built like that where there is parking over it, in which a car literally goes over the sidewalk into it. But the point being, they still know it's a sidewalk, so that when they back out, they're more aware of the fact that it is a pedestrian used area. It sounds crazy, but.
Was there any conversation about having back in angled parking? That's another thing I've seen in other places where they actually, you back into a spot and angle. Because when you're pulling out forward.
It would be impossible. It just would be impossible.
It's hard enough to back in the way it is, let alone if it's angled.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because they've still got 2 lanes of traffic going north Fairfield Road, one of which is going to be a left turn lane. And then they've got 1 lane going the other way. And it just, there isn't room when they narrow the road for cyclists.
Well, if they narrow that section, though, you are hopefully sort of like what we talked about on the Fairfield Woods by People's Bank. You're hopefully preventing the car that's trying to turn right onto Wilson, Fairfield Woods. But because what happens now is they create their own additional lane, and I'm as guilty as the next of doing that if I pull out of that section because I'm going to go the other way.
That's right. They did a bump out, and the bump out, I think, was a good addition because it prevents the extra lane for people to sneak in and quickly turn right. And they lined up the shoulder where the shoulder stops with that bump out, which makes sense, except there's no room for cyclists.
So if you wouldn't mind, I did see you have 7 recommendations in your email. Are those going to be sent to are you going to be presenting them at the meeting, or are those something to be put down in writing? Does it come from the Bike Ped Committee? I'm just wondering how that
Correct. This would come from the bike ped meeting, which is why we wanted to bring it up at a meeting so that everyone can see it and everyone can, voice their opinion on it. I do think we could consolidate a couple of these a little bit. One of them, the second one was really our question to the committee is, why are you doing a median? I mean, we sort of wanted an explanation because apparently we've heard that it is been very well received by the Stratfield Village Association, and sometimes they think it looks beautiful. But we're looking at it from the perspective of you're cutting into the width of the sides of the road, so maybe it's not the best idea. And also, great, you plant some trees there, but who's maintaining this long term? Who's maintaining that median?
Karen, maybe you were on the meeting, town hall meeting with the Stratfield Village Association. Somebody asked about cyclists and where they go. So it was sort of an afterthought. And so they decided to come to us after there was a comment or two made.
Yes.
So yeah, I think definitely to your point, the idea of, if you were to kind of consolidate this a bit, you could have it be for 1 point for cyclists, 1 point for the pedestrians, and then 1 point for either sidewalks or parking or something like that, and try to kind of focus it a bit so that we can have some kind of clear things. This is what we recommend from the bike head side.
Okay. In the just sense of like, I need to get this back to them as soon as possible because this, their meeting was a couple of weeks ago and they're waiting for this. I can work on this and kind of put something together and then just send it out to the committee, and you guys can say, what you want, and we can do sort of, without calling a meeting. Can we vote? Can we do something by just, because we can't respond to all the emails. That's the only problem. Like we could do it as a Google Doc and people could make edits, but then,
well, then the last person who makes the edit wins. That doesn't.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And I would say, Karen, I mean, if everybody takes a look at them, I mean, I'm just reading them over right now. I don't have any problems with any of the comments that we're making. I think they're all positive from a bike pedestrian standpoint. So I would just say, from a committee side, is if anybody has any objections, make them now, and then it would be more of a cleanup on your part. So.
Okay, and then a clean out, and then I'll just send them out to everyone once they're cleaned up too, so that everyone can see it. But then, if everyone feels comfortable with it, I think we should just send it to them.
Yeah, and when
before I sign off, I think one thing that would be interesting from this committee is what people really don't want to give on. If the answer is no, the state's not going to change anything because they don't want to spend the money, how do we feel about that? Could we take some of the grant that Santina's got for pedestrians to do something to make it go above and beyond?
Well, Laura, I
don't know.
Laura, what I would say on that is, from a complete streets perspective, they need to make it accessible for bicycles and pedestrians. I mean, it should be. And so there shouldn't be a question if we're talking about the widths of the sides of the roads, like that shouldn't be anything that they push back on.
I know, but you heard Kristen. The state hasn't really embraced this. And I was at the public meeting for the Kings Highway redo. I made a statement that it wasn't bicycle friendly, and they basically said, sorry, we're going to put a median in the middle of the road. That's good for pedestrians. We're not going to worry about bicyclists. I mean, they do what they do.
Yeah.
The town has Fairfield Woods, but the state has Stratfield. So we have more leverage on Fairfield Woods.
Yeah. Right.
There's something, but I
think as a committee, we should push the fact that those sides should have the width that's recommended for any, and beyond that, what are we going to, accomplish? It's all recommendations. So
yeah, it's a recommendation.
Can I
the ones making it. Go ahead, Nate.
Okay, I want to jump in here on the bullet point number 5, which is the signage. I think that the pedestrians are sort of a given because there are sidewalks and crosswalks all throughout this plan. I do think that the sign that would be really appropriate would be if they're gonna maintain this traffic calming, lane narrowing paradigm, that they need to have signs, and I see them all over the place in more bike friendly areas, that signs that say bikes can use entire lane. And that, I think that might get us somewhere close to where we need to be in terms of making sure that people understand that, bikes have the right to be on these roads. So, we, instead of being shoehorned into the corner, which is actually sort of dangerous in an intersection, it's actually safer on a bike to be in the lane itself. With cars.
Actually, Nate, I actually brought this up at the meeting, and I discussed the fact that usually what you would do if you had a right-hand turn lane somewhere and you're biking, you actually veer into this main lane to maintain going straight. They're never going to do that sort of striping, right. But I don't think that there is a huge understanding of what the bike, what's the proper etiquette for a bike in that situation.
Right.
So if you have a suggestion of a sign and you want to send it to me, just text
sure.
it to me.
I'll send it over. I think I've seen them before. I'm up in New York State right now. I'm actually in a hotel room up in Hudson, New York, and
that's where I was born.
Fun. So there's a ton of bike paths around here, and they definitely have signs where the bike path ends. So there are signs on state highways that say bikes can use entire lane, and I think that's a good. I think that's a good place to go for us because the real concern in this, I think to get to the to distill your concern is when you have this pinch point at the intersection with that bump out. Yes, it will calm traffic and make it so that you don't have these de facto second lanes. The real concern is what does it do to the cyclists and sort of blessing the ability to use the lane that is, sort of ordained anyway, would be beneficial.
I think that's a great suggestion, Nate. And might just the fact that we make the suggestion might remind these planners that what they've done is going to require cyclists to share the lane. Because I'm not sure they understand that. Nate, just you should also notice that you go to the other side of that parking area in front of that little strip mall. Notice how gradually they narrow the shoulder down to nothing just before the park. So it actually starts back there. So you're suddenly driving along Stratfield Road with a shoulder. Gradually you get forced into the first lane. You see?
Anne, I think you wanted to make a point.
I would just use the complete streets in the wording of whatever comments you're going to send back and just kind of note that it is state law and also town policy. Hopefully that might make them think twice about what they're doing.
Is there specific places in which that would apply in the recommendations that we have here? I mean, just in the sense, maybe what I'll do is try to clean it up. I'll send it to you. You can look at where we might be able to add that wordage. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's on the ConDOT website. If they're working for ConDOT, like they should be following that policy when they're doing
right. That. I just want to make sure that it gets the words that you're looking for. And if you could just.
Yeah, happy to do it whenever you want. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. I think somebody's not muted, and I'm hearing a lot of background noise, like sounds like talk in the background. So just maybe double check that you're muted or not.
That would be Karen, my family talking to my daughter in the kitchen, very loud. She's on FaceTime. I'll mute.
Oh, that's okay. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to ask when is the comments due, Karen? Like when do you actually have to get them?
They had this meeting a couple of weeks ago, and Dylan did reach out to me at the end of last week, and I said we had a meeting this week. So I'm trying to get to him as quickly as possible, just because, and they are taking our recommendations into consideration. So with respect to them, I want to get to them as soon as possible.
Okay. Thanks. I think Laura just dropped off. We'll try to wrap this up relatively quickly. I've actually been up doing college fairs in Africa this morning, starting at 4 a.m. So I've been Zooming all day, and I'm at the end of my rope. So, anyways, the one thing Mary and Bob had brought up, and I just figured I would bring it up with you guys, is they were asking about the original bike ped master plan. That was the plan that was made before we became a group, and they were asking me if there was any discussion of if we wanted to update that, bring it into the 2020s or whatever. And I said I'd just bring it up to the committee because I haven't even really thought about that, but it might be something that we think of. As we've got our complete streets policy done and passed, maybe that's something we take a look at again. So I'm just going to throw that out there, and more to see if anybody wants to bite and say, I'd like to take a look at this master plan and see if we should be updating it. So I wanted to put that out there for everybody's opinion. Go ahead. Anne, I think you want to say something.
I think I was talking about this at a meeting a month or two ago. I can't remember. I tried to look at the minutes, but I didn't see where it had come up. But because I was talking to Emmeline about it, and she was saying to go back to that plan and look at how committees and different departments like Board of Ed or whatever could kind of connect. Make connections. So like if by doing that, if you want to update things, you should, and get real movement on things, you should look for areas that have already been done and worked on, like in old plans, and then work from like, say, a radius around a school and see what's in the plan that hasn't been already worked on, and then go back and work on those things that you could then get buy-in from the Board of Ed, or or if it's something around businesses, you could get buy-in from like the Chamber of Commerce or something like that. So I'm happy to look at it if anybody else wants to look at it too. I can do that. We can do that together.
Yeah, that would be great if a few people. I think that's a relatively large project, and that plan is very extensive. Does everybody have a copy of it? I have to go back and see if I can dig it up, but does everybody have a copy of the original bike ped master plan? I think it was in 2014, maybe 2013.
I think I do.
I'm going to see if I can find it. I have it on my computer somewhere. I'll email it to everybody.
That's my phone. Thumbs up.
Right. And then we already talked about the STEEP grant. So I think probably the last thing I really just wanted to put on here, and if anybody has anything else, we can add it at the end, was definitely I want to start thinking about outreach to the other committees. I was really happy that we were able to have two town committees and a state rep on today's call, so that was good.
That's great.
I'd like to try to keep that up and see what we can do. So let me, I know I said I was going to do this. I get a little bit sidetracked with work stuff and everything else, but let me send out the original document that we had listed a lot of the various people in town, whether it be, the POCD or the various different committees. And what we could try to do is put names to various ones of these. And then over the course of the next month or two, especially over the holidays and the winter time when there's not a lot actually going on from a bike ped standpoint, we can start the outreach to people. We can see if they would be able to come and do something like they did tonight, where they just give us a quick overview of what they've been doing. We can ask some questions. We can talk about what we've been doing and see if we can make those connections. So Linda has already said she would be interested in working with, you want to say it, Linda? You said you'd be interested in working with sustainability, was it?
Yeah, definitely. So I can work with Mary on that.
Okay. Anybody interested in the forestry committee? I know Mary was asking about that. So Karen, yeah, that would be great. So, and then, Anne, if you can maybe take the lead, if anybody else wants to do, take a look at that original bike ped master plan, and I will go through the list of other committees and things like that and just kind of send that out, and we can start to put names to it. And I think that would be a good way to start.
That sounds great. Good. This was a great idea, Keith. This was good. Mary and Kristen and everybody else on.
Well, it was not 100% my ideas. They reached out to me actually, and I think some of you guys have been in touch with them over the course of the month. So I appreciate everybody's kind of help. Sometimes it's it's just kind of quiet conversations, but when they can reconnect and we can get everybody back to the committee, that's great. So, all right, does anybody have anything else they wanted to bring up? I know Sarah will be joining us officially next meeting. So Sarah, you'll be able, I'm not sure if you're still here, but once you'll be able to comment, vote. I'm going to get the dates off to the town clerk for next year's meetings. They'll be at the same time, and then just put them on your calendars, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Terrific. Yeah.
All right. Well,
okay.
Just before we close the meeting officially, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Who's Zooming for Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just finished putting up the Christmas lights with me and my daughter. So the whole house is like the Griswolds now, which I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm putting everything up early this year. So Sacred Heart did it. I'm doing it.
Right.
It's been a miserable year. So
it's the way to go.
All right, guys. So can I have anybody want to vote to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to.
Right,
Any of us, yeah.
Jay, you can put down anybody, like everybody.
Yes, I'm it doesn't matter. I'm picking people anyway. They never remember, but I just pick
Exactly.
whoever.
Just fill in names, Jay. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay. At